occurs in that you are now filled with the Spirit, yielded to the Spirit, led by the Spirit, walking in the Spirit, and now your sin nature is subdued, and the Spirit of Christ and your new nature reigns. And you begin to bear the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians chapter 5. And if you read Ephesians chapter 5, you just kind of want to glance down at what happens after he says, be filled with the Spirit. In chapters 5, verses 19 all the way through 6, chapter 10, or verse 10, Paul begins to say, you know what? Here's what it looks like. Here's what a marriage looks like when the husband and wife are filled with the Spirit. Here's what a family looks like when the parents are filled with the Spirit. Here's what a family looks like when the children are filled with the Spirit. There's a lot of submitting going on. There's a lot of yielding going on. Here's what a work environment looks like when people are filled with the Spirit. Here's how you do battle with the enemy of your soul when you're filled with the Spirit. Galatians 6, 10 through 19. This is what it looks like to be filled with the Spirit. It's not debauchery. It's the exact opposite. It is, in fact, the fruit of the Spirit in a life that is fruitful and productive and brings glory to God. You see, to be filled with the Spirit, you have to be broken first. You have to be emptied of self. And that is, in fact, sometimes a painful process. Many of you right now are undergoing some type of trial, some type of tribulation. It could be financial hardship. It could be a physical ailment. It could be relational difficulty. And these trials that God has allowed to come into your life, sometimes because of your own hardness, truthfully, but sometimes it has nothing to do with any sin or anything that you've done. It's just the Lord has allowed it, and he allows it to, these things to come into our life to break us, to put us on the anvil, to put us in the fire, to hammer us, to shape us, to mold us. And we have to be emptied and broken of self before we can be filled with the Spirit. And to walk by the Spirit, you must first be broken. You have to be willing to yield. That's why this is prerequisite, the brokenness. You can't be filled with the Spirit. You can't walk in the Spirit or be led by the Spirit without brokenness. Unbroken people do not yield to the leading of the Spirit. Never. Never. Why not? Because they're always convinced that their way is the best way. Christ says, and the Spirit of Christ says, Brooks, this is the direction I want you to walk. I'm unbroken and I'm unyielding, and I say, you know what? That's painful. That requires me yielding my rights to another person. I'm not going there. Instead, I'll go the route that I've chosen for myself, and God says, my ways are not your ways. I know, that's the point. My ways are better than your ways. Maybe I ought to write a book about it, and then people will buy that. And they can stop reading your silly book and read my book, because my book is about my way. That's the problem. We're all authors. We're all writing our own books, and we're all following our own advice. And Christ is saying, I'm over here. We're going this way. And we look at that way and we say, I don't know. And then God allows us to go off on our own way, and we frolic through the woods on our own way, like Hansel and Gretel. And then we're devoured by bears or captured by witches, and we can't figure out how this all happened. It's like because we refuse to walk with our Savior. And he allows us, he gives us just enough rope. He just yields it out. Say, I need another couple feet, Lord. Okay, fine. What are you going to use it for, Brooks? Well, I'm making a noose. What are you going to use the noose for? I'm going to tie it around my neck and just swing off of a tree because I think that will be fun. Really? Yeah. That's my way. He says, good luck with that. If you should need me, I'll be over here with the scissors to cut the rope off. Okay, but I don't need you. That's the point. Just to get to heaven in case I die from being hanged by my own rope that I made for myself. He'll let you do that. And then, in the process of choking, you will begin to cry out to the Lord, what am I doing here? That's the process of being broken. And now we're yielded, and now we're ready to actually roll. You say, okay. I'm yielded already. We don't need any more sermons on being broken. The last two were absolutely brutal. I left here bleeding from my ears, my eyes, and my nose. And I had black and blue marks spiritually all over my body. So I would just prefer that we get on with the what does it look like and stop with the bludgeoning of the anvil and the hammer process. I don't do bludgeoning. That's the Spirit's job. But what he does in that is he's shaping us. But okay, let's move on. How do we do this? Let's assume that we're all yielded. Let's assume that we've all been poured out. How do we, in fact, now be filled with the Spirit? How do we do this? What do we do? Okay. Here's what many people right now are thinking, and I know that because I think this way too. I think this way too. We have a lot of people that are linear thinkers. By that, I mean that you work in terms of logic. If then, do this, A plus B times C equals D. And so everything is formulaic. You want to be given 6 steps to be filled with the Spirit. That's what you want. Everybody wants to write and read books that say 7 steps to a godly life, 5 steps to a wonderful marriage. Everyone is about the steps. What do I do first? Now tell me what to do. And we want those all in a very neat package. We want a formula. When I was in college, I had one tie that my father tied for me when I was in high school. I didn't know how to tie a tie. And then I had to go to I got another tie, and it wasn't tied. They don't come tied. I don't understand that, but they don't sell them already pre-tied. So I had another tie, and I was going to wear that to the one event where I would wear a tie. I think it was a wrestling banquet or something like that, but I didn't know how to tie the tie. Now, my mind works this way. I have a tie that is tied, but I have a tie that's not tied, and I want the tie that's not tied to look like the tie that's tied. So, what do? I take the tie that's tied, and I start to loosen it, and I study it. And I study, okay, this went around this way, and I loosened it, and I kind of studied it, and I left it kind of loose, and I put the one, so I kind of was doing this, and I tied the tie. That's the one knot I know how to do. That's how my head works. I figured it out by taking apart the original and kind of studying it. So I followed some steps. I made some steps. And it's like, then you do this, and you wrap this. This goes through here, touch it. And then, of course, it was too long or it was too short. And so I figured it out. I played with it. And now I can tie a tie. And it's like riding a bike. You never forget. So the one knot that I know how to do, which was an 80s knot and is too skinny now, and I don't know how to do a 90s or this century's knot. So I'm already outdated. Hence, I don't wear a tie anymore. So the purpose of the tie illustration is just to illustrate that that's how we work. At least most people work. They want steps. They want a picture. They want pictures and steps so they can do what someone else did. We want Paul to say, okay, and Paul does say this to an extent. He says, imitate me. Imitate me and the life that I live. So we want to do that. We want to say, okay, Paul, show us where to step. What passage should I read in the Bible? How often should I read the Bible? Should I get into a small group? And if so, which small group? And when I pray, how do I pray? How often do I pray? To whom should I pray for? We look for a formula. We look for a formula, and in that formula is Bible reading and prayer and fellowship, and we think that, okay, get all the ingredients, and we put all those into the equation. Prayer plus reading the Bible plus fellowship equals spiritual fruit, and that's what it means to be filled with the Spirit. No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that. It's not a formula. It's not a formula. It's not a formula at all. Here's why it's not a formula. Because the reason that I focused on that tie was because I wanted a tie that looked like that tie. You say, duh. That's the whole point, right? So what's the point of being filled with the Spirit? Here's what most Christians think. The point of being filled with the Spirit is so I can bear fruit spiritually. Wrong answer. That is not the point of being filled with the Spirit. God does not want me to be filled with the Spirit so I can have a great marriage. God does not want me to be filled with the Spirit so I can have patience. God does not want me to be filled with the Spirit so I can have self-control and lose that 5 pounds that I can't seem to lose. That's not the reason He wants me to be filled with the Spirit.